The big three of Steph Curry, Klay Thompson, and Draymond Green just does not lose in the playoffs, which is why despite being a lower seed, they're heavily favored to beat the Kings. And while my gut says to go with the team that has proved it time and time again, schematically I just can't get past how well Sacramento matches up here. It's no secret that under coach Mike Brown, the Kings had a historically good offense this season. At almost 120 points per 100 possessions, no team has ever been more efficient, hitting a peak in the months of February and March where they marked a scorching offensive rating of 124. They like to get into their offense quickly, whether that's off of made baskets, turnovers, or rebounds, and their roster is filled with speed and agility, which is really hard to keep up with. They're also absolutely loaded with talented outside shooters, and when paired with that fast-paced tempo and constant movement, they're able to open up the floor and create space to attack at a super high level. Almost all of their offense is run through Domantas Sabonis in the middle of the floor, which works so well because of how much skill he has with the ball. He'll initiate dribble handoffs, moving along the perimeter laterally, where his massive screening helps Sacramento score the most points in these spots of any team. What this does is forces bigs to step out of the paint, and he's also one of the game's best passers at that position, leading to a ton of opportunities on cuts. When given room to attack himself, he can handle the ball and has a real nice set of moves going at the rim, and will absolutely abuse mismatches with physical play down low, which makes defending these actions in the middle of the floor a lot more difficult. Despite emphasizing motion, they're still capable of generating rim pressure with the ball, which is huge in taking that offense to the next level. A lot of this is of course De'Aaron Fox, but their roster is filled with guys who can put it down off the catch, attack closeouts, and make good decisions. This opens up a ton of drive and kick, passing up good shots to hunt out great ones, and they display beautiful ball movement without turning it over, which allows them to capitalize on and extend advantages created in those initial actions as well as anyone. Of course, a big question heading into this series against Golden State is whether or not the Warriors have what it takes to slow down the machine in any meaningful way, and what exactly that even looks like. The Dubs were about an average defense this season, but with Wiggins returning to the lineup, the addition of Gary Payton II, and Draymond still having that next gear, many feel confident that they can turn it up a notch and lock down. The problem is, in this specific matchup, I'm not sure how many minutes Kevon Looney can realistically play. His lack of mobility is such a huge limiting factor, and when you're facing such a high voltage offense with constant movement at high speeds, I have very little doubt that he'll be effectively played off the floor. Now this creates some serious problems, because while Golden State's a good rebounding team, what about when Looney's off the floor? In over 1,900 minutes with him, they look really good, landing in the top 6 in both offensive and defensive rebounds, 4th overall. But in about 2,000 minutes without him, those numbers plummet near the bottom of the league, and this inability to either close or gain extra possessions has a huge effect on their lineups. As most people know by now, Golden State's best 5-man lineup is absolutely ludicrous, but if you isolate just Steph Curry and Kevon Looney, it's clear how important his rebounding actually is. This season, they've played over 1,000 minutes together, and in that time, the Warriors have both an elite offense and defense, looking like one of the best teams in the league. But when Steph's out there without Looney, it's a different story, seeing a significant decrease on both ends of the floor. Over the entire year, the league's leader in rebounds was none other than Sabonis, who does this effectively on both sides of the ball. So a big question for the Warriors is whether or not they can keep him from completely dominating the boards, and that's a lot to ask for Draymond and Wiggins with how much they'll already be doing defensively. So either you're giving up speed and versatility against the league's best offense by playing Loon, or you're risking total domination on the glass, and that creates some really tough decisions. I will say that I think Draymond at the 5 can defend those actions in the middle of the floor better than anyone. His genius level IQ and versatility will allow him to be really disruptive. But if you're going to stop the Kings from absolutely torching you on every possession, you just can't give up advantages for them to attack, which is why how well they navigate screens will be huge. So I'm expecting a lot of minutes from Gary Payton II. Still, I don't think Sacramento is going to have much trouble at all putting up a lot of points in this series, but it might not matter depending on how things go on the other end of the floor. Before we get into that though, I want to give a quick shout out to Basketball Index for helping with this analysis. If you're not familiar with the site, they provide tons of statistical measurements, tools, and easily accessible graphics to further guide your understanding of the sport. They offer talent grades on pretty much any aspect you can think of, and through their player profiles tab, I can easily compare them to other players around the league. Using Fox's finishing as an example, on this page I'm presented with various metrics detailing his ability to create and make these shots, along with how he stacks up against his peers. By signing up with the code VENUE30, you can get 30% off your first month subscription, so I'll leave a link in the description below for anyone interested. And with that being said, let's take a look at how Sacramento matches up defensively. We know about the motion offense, filled with constant movement, passing, and setting more illegal screens than anyone ever, and the Kings just don't have the defensive personnel to slow this down. With that said though, one flaw the Warriors do have is that they don't really generate any rim pressure with the ball. They're bottom 3 in the league in drives, points in the paint, and free throw attempts, which I think limits their ability to get Sabonis in foul trouble, despite landing second in the NBA in fouls per game. And because they don't get to the paint much with a live dribble, I'm sure Sacramento's a lot more comfortable throwing more aggressive coverages on the perimeter, as they're not worried about guards turning the corner and punishing them. This forces everyone else to be a decision maker, and the Warriors do lead the league in points off of cuts, so that defense will really be tested to not lose guys away from the ball. But on the flip side, we've seen Golden State really struggle with turnovers, ranking last in the NBA, and if that becomes a problem to the point where the Kings are able to consistently get out and run, things aren't looking too good. A major problem in playing these screening actions aggressively though, is that the Warriors hold the ultimate counter in Draymond Green, and by allowing the offense to create advantages, this instantly becomes his series. He's maybe the best short roll decision maker we've ever seen, making lightning quick reads to execute these 4-on-3s better than anyone. Although I do think his lack of downhill pressure as a true threat to score does raise some question marks. Ultimately though, I think everyone's in agreement that this is going to be a real high scoring series, and more times than not, those come down to who's hitting more of their open shots. That trust lies more in Golden State than anyone, as they're first in the league in 3-point attempts, almost exclusively from 3 players, with 2 of them of course being Steph Curry and Klay Thompson, who in the past have shown somewhat of an ability to make jumpers. As for Sacramento, there's a lot more hesitancy because we really haven't seen some of them prove it. I'm primarily looking at rookie Keegan Murray, sharpshooter Kevin Huerter, and their spark plug Malik Monk. If these guys all get hot, in my opinion, there's just no chance the Warriors win this series. That offense puts up way too many points. But if they aren't hitting, I think there would be enough stops to outscore them on the other end, and ultimately pull it out. Regardless of which way you lean, there's no denying that we're in for an electric offensive series, and I can't wait to see what happens. If you enjoyed this breakdown, make sure to drop a like, subscribe, and turn my post notifications on to be first on more content. If you're interested in my more in-depth research, make sure to check out my website and social media profiles. You can find those links in the description. Feel free to let me know down in the comments what you think of this matchup. As always, I hope you all have a great day, and I'll catch you guys in the next one.